Mm, okay. I really hope I clicked record to my computer because I don't have any more room in my cloud. This is going to be a video, as you can see from the title, Analytic Philosophers Who Write Clearly, Lucidly, no, Clearly and Lucidly, which is basically the same thing. So their works are relatively accessible to novices that are into metaphysics, epistemology, philosophy of language. Those are my three core. And actually, this was requested by a viewer. He wanted books accessible uh, to metaphysics, in metaphysics and epistemology. But I've thrown in philosophy of language because that's what I read, so that's what I actually know more about. And I put in philosophy of mind only because of its popularity, and I know Jaegwon Kim is an excellent philosopher that falls into this category. But otherwise, I really don't know too much about philosophy of mind. So, yeah. So, anyway, here it goes. This is somewhat of a disorganized list, but all these philosophers, either I read enough to recommend them, I know firsthand that they're very clear in their writing, or I know of their reputation um, just because I studied philosophy. But some of them, like a couple of them, are new to me, and just I know them based off of their reputation off Amazon, not from the philosophical circles that I used to like. I don't want to say be a part of, like I was like heavily into philosophy, but like when I went to school and studied philosophy and talked to professors and graduate students, and so these philosophers' names came up and like were discussed. But so I'll point them out to you. Bertrand Russell, I've read the Problems of Philosophy. I've read Our Knowledge of the External World, more or less. Philosophy students generally, at least, here, let me give you a little secret about philosophy students that study at UCLA. If you can get a degree in philosophy like I did, and you can be a very good student like I was, and you will never have read a philosophy book cover to cover. It's just not how philosophy is taught at UCLA. Uh, at UCLA, you will get assigned usually at most a 10 to 15, 20 page essay at most. And even that, it's probably just going to be a part of that essay. And then you're supposed to expound on a certain problem in philosophy, or yeah, you're supposed to do exegesis on part of that. And so, like, maybe I haven't read an entire philosophy cover to cover, with the exception of something like Nietzsche. But analytic philosophers, like, yeah, I don't think I've read an analytic philosophy book cover to cover. Even the problems of philosophy, which I've read a lot of, even our knowledge of the external world, which I've read a lot of. But anyway, so where was I? Bertrand Russell. Bertrand Russell, a clear writer, good philosopher. And when I say good philosopher, I don't mean they're right. Like there's a lot of problems with Russell's theories. Um, but as an introductory text, you can pick him up, I think, as a novice and generally understand and follow him. But he's not writing specifically like there's a genre of books that are targeted specifically to novices that are like usually will have the title of like Introduction to Metaphysics, Introduction to Epistemology, and even when they don't have that phrase introduction to, that's basically they are introductions specifically written for novices. Bertrand Russell doesn't write specifically for novices, but his style uh, is conducive to understanding for novices. Okay, not very eloquent, but you get my point. Number two, A.J. Ayer. Uh, A.J. Ayer wrote The Problem of Knowledge. So if you want to get into epistemology, Ayer is also a very good writer. I'm familiar with his writing. Uh, yeah, it's pretty clear. And I'll point out Peter Strawson, another big name in philosophy. If you want to get into metaphysics, you can read his Individuals. Also, Analysis in Metaphysics, which is supposed to be very, very accessible. Some of these comments are ChatGPT generated. Um, yeah, so some of these I should have just trimmed. Thomas Nagel. I've read Thomas Nagel. I've read a lot of Thomas Nagel. Again, he's not one that is writing philosophy books for novices specifically, but again, his writing is so clear, and his approach is so methodical that you can generally understand what he's getting at or what he's doing. And so, what does it all mean? This is an introduction to metaphysics and epistemology, and The View from Nowhere, which is super popular, which is about the mind, knowledge, or the mind in the world, or mind, philosophy of mind, knowledge, and reality. So Nagel. Um, and at the end, I'll point out specific books that are written and specifically for beginners. But all of these philosophers are very good writers, very good philosophers, very clear. Particularly, they stand out as clear writers compared to their contemporaries. Like there's excellent philosophers. Like to me, my favorite living philosopher is John McDowell. I think he's just the best philosopher. Like what I read from him is just like forceful, and he's cogent, obviously, and then like anyway. So, but I wouldn't recommend him to anybody. I wouldn't recommend unless they have a deep philosophical background. But because you're not going to pick up McDowell and understand him, even though he's got a lot to offer. But Thomas Nagel, you can. And Thomas Nagel is also an eminent philosopher. So okay, continue. Frank Jackson. Frank Jackson, I've known about when I studied philosophy, but I've never read anything by Frank Jackson. At least I don't remember. I might have read an essay of his, but I don't remember. But I know his name, and I know his reputation from like philosophy people, not from Amazon. Perception. So this is on philosophy of mind and epistemology. Paul Grice. How did this get like this? Let's pull this up. No, that's why. And this is not very neat, but okay. Paul Grice is another philosopher who I've known from when I studied philosophy, from other philosophers, from other students, from other professors. This is the studies in the way of words. This is philosophy of language and meaning. Okay, so Paul Grice, clear writer, good writer. Michael Dennett, famous, very well known philosopher. What is the theory of meaning? So this is philosophy of language. If you're into the theory of meaning, if you're into philosophy of language, Dennett is not a bad way to go. Like he's a good he may be an entryway into philosophy of language. Although I would recommend somebody like Scott Soames, which it'll be at the end. You'll see. Uh, okay, E.J. Lowe. I've never heard of E.J. Lowe. When I was studying philosophy, I never came across his name. So he might be very contemporary. Because I studied philosophy in 2003. I graduated, so it's been a while. So a survey of metaphysics. So it's a survey. So they pretty much going to be introductory stuff, and the possibility of metaphysics. So metaphysics and epistemology. So I might look into E.J. Lowe. There's also another author later that I will look into, which I've only recently heard about, uh, according to ChatGPT and Amazon. Searle, famous, polemical. Actually, he's got quite the personality, but a very good philosopher. Minds, brains, and science. I'm not a philosophy of mind guy, but if you are, this might be a good approach into the topic. Intentionality, mind, and language. This is a little more specific. I almost took it off the list. But if you're interested in intentionality, then this might be a good way to go. I haven't read it. I don't know, but I know Searle's a good writer, and I know he's a great philosopher. The rediscovery of the mind and metaphysics. Okay. Daniel Dennett, another big name. Again, another philosophy of mind guy. I'm not a philosophy of mind guy. Consciousness Explained. I have this book. I've read some of Dennett. I know he's a pretty good writer, a pretty clear writer, but I can't really recommend him because I haven't really done enough reading to say that this guy he made certain concepts and ideas accessible to me. So and that's going to be relying on my ability to understand these topics. So I don't know how helpful that would be anyway. But yeah, recognized as a clear writer. Intuition pumps and other tools for thinking. Philosophy of mind. I don't know about this book. I don't know about exactly what is going on. So again, the philosophy of mind stuff I'm not really like too well versed in. Peter von Inwagen, one of my favorites as far as clear, lucid prose. Metaphysics. This is the introductory text. Comment by ChatGPT, one of the clearest modern metaphysics textbooks. I agree generally. The problem of evil. If you're interested in the problem of evil, I'm not, but Okay. I've read On the Problem of Evil, but it's not a particular interest of mine. Exceptionally clear analytical writing, comment by ChatGPT. So, but Peter Inwagen, I endorse. I fully endorse. So, yeah, even though I haven't read that book, I'm sure it's very well written. Just because his metaphysics book is very well written. Jaegwon Kim. This is the only reason I really included Philosophy of Mind on here, because if you want to do Philosophy of Mind, I highly you I highly recommend you read Jaegwon Kim. Philosophy of Mind is an introductory text, a contemporary introduction that says, mind in the physical world, how the mind fits into our world when we think the mind is a non-physical thing, and so how does it fit into a physical world? Anyway, on the mental causation problem, right? So how do your thoughts trigger physical responses? Like I have the idea that I want to raise my this is my left hand. I want an idea that I want to raise my left hand, and so I'm like, okay, I have this idea, and now I want to do it. It's just a thought, and then I do it. So how does that happen? What is that connection? How does a non-physical thing, how does an abstract thing, which we think the mind is, generally, I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying that's the general thought, how does a non-physical thing affect a physical thing, which is my hand? Anyway, or you could think of as my brain. Okay, so anyway, that's just so Jaegwon Kim. But Jaegwon Kim is a great writer, a great writer. Like I aspire to write as clearly as Jaegwon Kim, and I kind of think that I'm a pretty good, clear writer. I'm really verbose, but like I generally think like I'm a really clear writer when it comes to philosophy. But Jaegwon Kim is just like yeah, next level. Uh, Physicalism or something near enough. So this is more mind and metaphysics stuff. This is a little more specialty oriented. I wouldn't recommend this as an introduction into philosophy of mind or metaphysics. Epistemology, yeah. So Kim on epistemology is good. Also, Ernest Sosa would be good. I don't know if I put Ernest Sosa on here. I hope I did. I have a feeling I forgot. But Ernest Sosa, Sosa, would be another one to look at if I didn't put it, but maybe I did. Alvin Plantinga. Alvin Plantinga is a big name in philosophy, and he was like I knew about him just when I studied philosophy, and some of his articles would come up in some of the topics that I was looking into, but I never really read a lot of Plantinga. And Plantinga is a pretty like yeah, I think I want to say sophisticated, heady guy, but and he's also a theist, so he believes in God and he argues for these things, and that was never my interest. But as far as like his approach, the way he writes philosophy, the way he lays things out for you, and it's just methodical, and it's almost like he's teaching you as he's writing. So like would be good for an for a novice or beginner. So this is what I've heard about Plantinga. So his book Warrant, The Current Debate. Warrant is just like your justification for your beliefs. Clear survey of theories of of justification and knowledge. Warrant and proper function develops his own theory in a very structured way, so helpful to you as a beginner. Knowledge and Christian belief. So again, this part of the Christian belief, I have no interest in. It's not, I'm averse to it. I just think like, yeah, it's not my thing. So anyway, a more accessible synthesis of his epistemology. But if you're a Christian, if you're a believer in God, and you want to have your epistemology, and you want to study epistemology, like Plantinga is like the guy to go to. Okay, Barry Stroud, one of my favorites. Uh, I actually prefer Barry Stroud over like someone like Nagel, and Nagel I like Nagel, but did I put Nagel on the list? I think I did. Uh, anyway, so Barry Stroud, not exactly. He doesn't exactly write for the layman, but his writing is so clear that like it's probably doable for the layman. One of the clearest discussions of skepticism ever written, explains skeptical arguments better than most of their defenders. I think so. Okay, so Barry Stroud, I recommend. I've read a lot of Barry Stroud, and I know his writing. Then he wrote Understanding Human Knowledge. It was a short, elegant overview of epistemology. So if you want epistemology, okay. So again, not introductory like formatted, but clear enough that you will be able to tackle it. Now, one of my favorites, if you want to get an overview of a topic, Scott Soames. He has several books that are like these like giant tomes of like like almost anthologies of philosophy in like the 20th century. But anyway, philosophical analysis in the 20th century, volumes one and two. I have volume one and I have volume two on Kindle. These are massive books, but Soames is a very, very clear writer. So if you want to get into yeah, philosophy or analytic philosophy, you want to understand analytic philosophy, Scott Soames, I recommend. He has also a philosophy of language. He's very good at it. He has a series, I think, just a two book series on philosophy of language. Good stuff. Understanding truth. This truth is a little bit specific topic within the philosophy of language. But if you're interested in it, truth, propositions, and meaning, and in philosophy of mind, another introductory text, consciousness, mental content, and physicalism. Okay, so Scott Soames, highly recommend. I've read a lot of Scott Soames, and I know his writing is clear. Now, for books specifically, and I like the Routledge series, Routledge Publishers, and they have introductory books specifically targeted for novices. They are introductory books, and they're usually titled that. But here we go. So here I just have Metaphysics, Epistemology, and Philosophy of Language. Metaphysics, an introduction by Alyssa Ney. And I have never read Alyssa Ney. I never heard of Alyssa Ney, but I'm sure she's big time. Like, she wouldn't be publishing for Routledge if she weren't. And this is ChatGPT's comment, a rigorous but accessible survey of central metaphysical topics, including ontology, identity, modality, causation, and more. Routledge edition makes this suitable for students new to metaphysics. And I know the Routledge series. I know the Audi series, like the one below it. I know the William Lycan series for the philosophy of mind. And if she's anywhere near those two, just anywhere near, it's going to be very good for you as an introductory student. So I might have to look into Alyssa Ney's book here because, yeah, I always appreciate lucid writing, especially when it comes to philosophy. So this Routledge series, I recommend. This is the second edition already. This Robert Audi epistemology book, I have. Epistemology, Contemporary Introduction to Theory. I actually have his first edition and second edition. Functionally, an introduction to epistemology, widely used as a textbook. Fair enough. I wouldn't use it as a textbook, but you can. But I would certainly use it as an introductory text into epistemology. Audi makes things very accessible. And finally on the list is philosophy of language book. Philosophy of Language by William Lycan. Lycan is a beautiful writer, a great writer, good philosopher too. So this is side comment. Comment is clarity-oriented textbook that serves as a professional introduction to the field. Okay, fair enough. So these are the books I recommend if you are looking for authors who are exceptionally clear writers, given that it's philosophy. Now, like, none of these writers are going to make philosophy easy for you. Philosophy just doesn't work that way. It's too hard. You have to grapple with certain ideas, and some ideas are hard to like hold in your head. Like, wait, what is exactly going on? Like, what is supervenience? Like, supervenience is what? It's like this depends on this, or that depends on this, or this doesn't exist without this. It's like, and supervenience is just a concept. It's not particularly difficult, but even little things like that, like you start piling them on, and like theories that are like built on these ideas, and it's hard to like wait. It's hard to figure. It's hard to like, yeah, it's hard to hold them in your head and like figure out how they work. It's almost like imagine like a video presentation of a simple machine, and then they take the machine comes apart, and then you just see the individual parts, and then the image they put it back together. So, but imagine, and philosophy is like that. You're gonna have to like take the theory apart, then you have the individual components floating in its space, and you have to understand each individual component. You have to understand what it does, and then you have to understand what it does in relation to other parts. Then you have to fit it all back together in your mind so that you have a theory that's coherent, and that's philosophy. And some of these things are hard to do. Some of these theories are hard to like grasp. Okay, so but these writers at least they understand this because to do philosophy well, you have to be a master. Like you have to master every component, every part of the theory, like every word of your essay. Like you have to know exactly what it's doing and the effect it's doing. And these writers generally do this very well, which is not writing philosophy clearly, lucidly is one of the hardest things you can ever do, I think. And these guys do it very well. So those are my recommend. These guys and girls because yeah, Alyssa Nye. I might have to look into her. Anyway, Alyssa Nay, not Nye. Nye. Okay, that's it. So I hope this helps, and yeah. And if anybody else has a recommendation, if you have like some background in philosophy, or just you picked up a book and you're like, oh, I this is really helpful. I'm into this, especially if you're a novice. And yeah, so yeah, let me know. All right, that's it. I'm gonna stop sharing, and then I'm gonna close this, and that's it.